What's up, Asini Nation? So I was just on a podcast with James Chichester from Trident Search, where he interviewed me. Trident Search is a company that tries to hire SEs for companies. So they're recruiters where they find companies and try to match SEs to them. So if you're interested in learning more, check them out. I'm not affiliated, although I did enjoy my conversation quite a bit with James. And we did discuss overcoming self doubt. It was a longer episode, but that's the first few minutes, and I wanted to share that with you. So thank you, James, for allowing me to share your file with my viewers, and check them out. I'm gonna have links to their show in the show notes, on show notes, in the description below of this YouTube video, because it seems that I'm confused what I'm doing. Anyways, let's jump into my conversation with James, and I will see you after to summarize.
Would you like to sort of go into that? I think that's a really interesting and really important topic as well, and just how to overcome those doubts and those fears when in the role as a sales engineer.
In the role, or before, as they're trying to get into that role?
I think perhaps trying to get into the role, and then how it impacts and changes their perspective or changes their direction once they are sales engineers.
So yeah, I mean, when people are trying to get into that role, especially if they weren't sales engineers in the past, there's a lot of thinking like, oh, I don't have the human skills, I don't have the technical, I've never worked with a customer, I've never done a presentation. And a lot of times when I talk to people who have done that, who want to become sales engineers, they actually have done some work with customers. Maybe they're internal clients, like if they work at a bank and they're in IT, and somebody's computer crashed, they're the client. So we just have to, you have to look back at the impact that you've done. I think the biggest advice I give people when they're trying to apply for a job or any of that is, don't think about your job description when you want to talk to customers or when you want to talk to hiring employers. You want to think about the impact you've done to the companies that you've worked for. If you have done zero impact, you're probably not going to be a sales engineer or a good one. But if you've had an impact in the past, something that you're proud of, that will change the way you think about yourself as well. It's like, instead of going from, oh, I don't have that experience, to, oh, I helped to reduce the ticket processing by 20%, which led to this much increase in efficiency, which led to company being happy, whatever. So think about what you've done. Think about the accomplishments you've done, so that when you go talk to a hiring manager, you can highlight those accomplishments. I mean, some people haven't had any accomplishments at work, but they've come from poverty. They flew from a third world country into a first world country, struggled, didn't have money in their pocket. That's something that we need to highlight. What are our strengths? What do we do well in our lives beyond just work? And hopefully that will help people think about, when they're talking to their hiring manager, that they're a catch, not, they don't lack skills. Skills can be learned with practice. So I'll pause here before I go on another 20-minute spiel. Did I answer at least part of your question?
Yeah, and you touched on some really interesting points, and I speak to a lot of people that are new to the SE world or are interested in it, and a lot of the feedback that I get and a lot of their concerns are, well, I've not got that customer facing ability. I've not been in traditional pre-sales role before. I've worked, in architecture, security architecture, network. I've worked with these products, but I've never really been put myself in front of an audience. And I often come back and say, well, actually, you're just speaking to people. It's about having that ability to tell a story, and having that confidence to do so. What are your thoughts on that? Is that something that you've encountered as well?
Yeah, I mean, again, so a lot of people think that they don't have the skills, but if you're working, technical skills are important. Like, you need to know the technology. It is something that you can learn. Generally speaking, you need to have industry skills, industry knowledge, product knowledge, and customer knowledge. So if you're working in cybersecurity as in IT at a bank, just as an example, you know the bank industry, and you know the customer. So maybe you're going from product A to product B. You also have some knowledge about the product, and as a customer, you know what you like to, how you like to be talked to, and how you like to be sold or guided to buy. And these are all advantages that you can use. As an SE working, trying to sell into customers, it's been a while since I was a customer, so things have changed. Their knowledge is different, so I need to adapt. That's a weakness that I have to overcome as an SE. You might not have that weakness because you are a customer. You work for someone who uses the products that you're trying to go and become a SE for. So that's an advantage that you have over other people. And if you haven't presented to anyone, start presenting. I mean, start your own Toastmasters, right? Figure something out. Like, if you're working at a company that actually a software, like, well, let's say like Palo Alto, if you're a software designer at Palo Alto, offer your services to help the sales team. Right? There are things that you can do today to get you exposed to the other side of the, I guess, sales cycle, from the buyer, moving from the buyer to the seller. All right. Well, to summarize my conversation, that 5-minute snippet with James, if you want to overcome self-doubt, I think a big thing that we need to do is, and I have notes here, is to no longer think about our job description. I don't have the skills, or I don't have the knowledge. We need to think about the impact that we've done for the organization that we work for. Because if we did something that helped our organization, that is something that will actually we will be able to emphasize during conversations with interviewers. And we can always learn products, we can learn skills. So that's number one. Number two is think about the accomplishments you've made inside your work life and outside of your work life. I like to emphasize the fact that I came to Canada during interviews. I like to emphasize the fact that I came to Canada without a single dollar, or maybe had some, but I wasn't registered in university. I had to come and figure it out. So I had some obstacles to overcome. I also like to emphasize the fact that I sucked as a sales engineer and I started a podcast. Both of these are kind of related to work, but not really. I did them outside of work. I did the podcast so I can get better, which helped me at work, but it wasn't for work specifically. And if you start thinking about your accomplishments, these are things that you can use to overcome your lack of skills or your weaknesses. Because weaknesses can be worked on. We can always get better at a certain technology. We can read, we can practice. We can practice talking to people. All these things we can learn. It's the mentality that we need to fix and overcome in most cases. So these are the two things I would like to say. The next thing I'd like to say is, by the way, I have a video of how to get how your resume can be found and what you need to do. I'll link that somewhere. But one thing you can do today is start exposing yourself to the sales cycle, whether it's from the buyer side or the seller side. The example I gave is in the call is if you're an IT at a bank, try to start being the guy who meets with vendors. Maybe not the only guy, but one of them. And attends the calls, attends the demos that vendors are having. Be part of the POC, the proof of concept. Just participate in that aspect from the buyer side so you have a better understanding of what they need, what a buyer needs, and what a seller needs. And when you have conversations with interviewers, you can have that discussion. Also, if you're from the vendor side, but you're not in sales, such as a software engineer at Palo Alto, which I mentioned, you can always ask or try to work your way, offer your services to help sales teams demo beta loads, alpha loads. Many companies do that, and you can do that as well. That will help you. And even if you don't do that for the sales team, you can demo the beta load, alpha load, the feature, whatever you're working on, to the product management, to the sales team, not necessarily the customer, but you can work your way up there. So try to get exposed from now for when you want it. But yeah, that's it. Check out, if you need help as a sales engineer, if you want to start thinking about things differently, check out the SE hotline. I help people on a daily basis do that. I think that's my strength, personally. That's one. Share, like, subscribe, and check out the rest of the show with Trident Search. Links are in the description, and I will see you later. Peace. Oh, get back to work.